Who's done? Let me know, sir, if you're done. Ma'am, you've done. Let me know, let me know. Let me know. Hey, Stanley.
Yes, sir.
Stanley. Yeah, yeah, my man. How you doing?
I'm good, sir.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk later.
Okay,
What
sir.
about Stan in Houston? Are you there? Is my Houston guy there? Guys, remember this whole thing, right? Is for you to know where the stuff is. You go get it and you use it. That's all it is. Nothing bigger than that. Just know where the stuff is. Pick it up and use it. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, let me dive in and see what you guys are doing. So I would log onto my computer. First, go to my net extender, right? So I can get to that machine easily. CHOMAC11. Okay, I'm in there. Then I go to my machine, which is number 60. So like everybody's, I log in. Then guys, often when I log in, if you're watching my screen, I turn off this part here. Let me tell you guys, all of these files here, if you look here, you can see your .bash profile. You could easily mess with those files. So it's always good to keep that window closed. You don't begin to see it for any reason. You don't need it. So I'm in here. Let me zoom in so you guys can see my thing. And this is how you do these exercises, guys. I would recommend that everybody has their own Evernote document just for the class. Let me send one and you all save it just for that purpose. Let me see, let me look at my thing here and see if I could find a template. No, maybe I give you guys just a template that I have. So you all be exactly where I am now. Okay? But it will be your copy. Cool. So this is my Evernote for this class. Okay, this is what I have for this class. So like I have this assignment to do right now, right? This is what I would do. I would let me go back to the assignment. Where are you, assignment? Just a second. Check it out. Okay, that's the assignment that we have. So I would normally, guys, this is how it's good to start documenting. Documentation is it's a lifesaver in IT. But there's so much you cannot remember everything. Maybe I'm not remembering much because I'm older, but ever since from the beginning, I know I have to document to remember stuff. But if you have a magnetic brain, maybe you don't have to document anything. But if you are like me, you want to keep a documentation. So zoom into this so you guys can see better. So this is my Evernote. So like I have that document, like I have that thing to do, right? I would do something like this, guys. I'll simply write, okay, maybe class exercise on maybe no, put the date right from the beginning. What's today again? June 28th. Class exercise. Keep my thing there. I can maybe make this a little bit bolder so they see it. Then I say create 3 tablespaces. Maybe if I have to copy, guys, I'll copy and paste it, but I didn't give it to you guys. So create 3 table spaces. Okay. Maybe I don't have to type the rest for now. I don't have enough time. So the 3 tablespaces is permanent. So 3 tablespaces was what did I call them again for you guys? I call it BI Tech Data, BI Tech Undo, BI Tech 10. So 3 tablespaces, BI Tech underscore data. That one is a permanent tablespace. I hope you guys know what permanent tablespace is, or what a permanent tablespace is. Who doesn't know what a permanent tablespace is? So somebody can explain to them right now. Permanent table. Then the other one was on undo, and the other one was TEMP. Cool. So those are my 3 tablespaces that I have to create. And so undo table space. And that one will be temp table space. You don't have to keep spelling the whole thing all day long. So now, guys, if I need to do this, I'll go to I can search right in here in my class notes because I know I had done it before. So I'll just do something like create table space. Hey, I see one right there, people. I see one right there. And I even see the query. Whoops. Doesn't that make life easy? I can just copy this thing, slap it there, and I'm done. Otherwise, I go to the textbook. Let's see the textbook. Which everybody should have this textbook thing on their. Just 1 second. Let me open it up. Let me open that boy. Go here. Guys, everybody should have a bookmark of the classroom. Or you just open here, see my classroom. And I can go there, right? And quickly run to the textbook, see if I can find it. Where is that? Classwork? No. It's under streaming, I think. Maybe under classwork. Under classwork, I can see here, guys, textbook. Click on it and see if I'm lucky. Yeah, I got it. And I go here. And I remember it's chapter 14 or 13. I can check. If it's not one, I'm going to go
14.
to a different one. So
It's 14.
click on that. Okay, it's 14. Cool. So now I open it. Open that thing, and I hated opening inside this thing, but who cares? So let me do find. Now I look for create table space. Search for that bad boy. Do I find one? Maybe not. What?
Is it
Are you
15?
sure?
It's
Did I
15.
spell that wrong?
15,
15.
15,
15.
chapter 15.
Oh, not
Storage.
okay. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so let's go back to okay, open this thing again and go to 15. Fine, Control F, right? Still buffering. And paste that in, copy something different now. Was create table space. Oops, type that wrong. Create table SP. That should take me there. And I can see my first script right here. Cool. Cool. Let's see the next one. There's some more somewhere. So I'm just searching here, guys. If you download it, even in PDF, or even much easier searching this stuff. Okay. So let me see. It appears 11 times. Cool. 2, 3. Create table space. Okay, this is another one here, much shorter, but maybe that's not the one. Create table space. I want to use that one. I want to use that guy. I want to use that guy. Not that one. Ooh, this one is so tempting and so sweet and so nice. That one looks like something I may want to use. If I'm really lazy, I'm just winging that exercise. I may be tempted to use this one that uses OMF. Therefore, I'll simply type, oops, didn't even copy the thing. Oh, it's 3 words, isn't it? It's like create table space. Remember, we must log into SQL, into the database, create table space. And the first one here is that guy. And they did not tell me big file or small file, so I leave it. It's a small file. Otherwise, you can go and type this, which doesn't matter. Small file. I don't even have to do that because by default it is small file, so you don't have to type small file. Then data file. Do you know? Just like that, I will create my table space because I have OMF. But the trick I did was, or the person who gave you this, I did specify I want it in that drive, U03, U04, U05. So my OMF would point only to one of them, which I can test by doing something like this, guys. You all know what SYS stands for. I can do show parameter. Show parameter. OMF. Nope. Hey guys, I want to see my OMF directory. Show parameter what? What is the parameter that you configure to set OMF? Anybody remembers? I want everybody to go look in their textbook for me. How do you configure OMF? Everybody do that. Go in your textbook or your notebook. This is when if you don't have the real text paper book, it might be difficult. I may give you guys 5 minutes. Everybody do that for me and I'm right back. How do you configure OMF? It's in the textbook. Right back till you get something to drink. All right, guys, I'm back. How do we configure OMF? Anybody found out? Anybody got that? Hello? Who found out how to configure OMF?
DBA underscore create underscore file underscore desk.
All right. Who could not find out how to configure that OMF?
I could not find out.
How come everybody's I feel in class or they're just somewhere else?
I couldn't find out.
Okay. That tells me, guys, any person could not find out. We are just beginning this class and you're not doing your assignments. You don't do your assignments? Let me tell you one thing. For sure, it's going to be tough. We got three chapters to go through. We just went through 3. We just went through 4 chapters. That's it. And you've not been doing your homework. Even though I stress on this, but you never did. It gets to some point, I just say this. You're hanging in there. If you're not doing your homework, you better begin to pay your fees. So at the end, you have yourself to blame. But if you're not doing your homework, you're not doing your fees, definitely, I wouldn't even like to have you hanging around and consuming bandwidth for nothing. Please. I don't know how to express this. I don't have time to waste, but I have to go back, go check and see who the quizzes that I give. Guys, you better do those quizzes. Homework, you better do it. If not, right, there is no point. I hate to see 25 people sign up in class, but only 1 or 2 people can answer a question. Make absolutely no sense. For a topic that was finished almost 3 weeks ago. It really doesn't make any sense, guys. Makes no sense. So everybody, I want everybody to kind of cross-check themselves. If you have the time for this class, if you don't have the time, you might as well just quit like some have done. I better have 5 people with whom I'm working seriously than to have 15 people and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. It's discouraging. So that's one of my last warnings I give. Please. I ain't got time to waste. That's what did. Let me go back to the note that I gave. And I gave you 10 minutes. If you could not find that. That's beyond, it's not amazing, it's horrible. That's really being horrible. I'll tell you guys the truth. We did that right here. We did that in this chapter here, chapter 14. Where is that? That we talked about OMF right here. Guys, look at your book. If I did this and you did not do it, then you are one of those. I know I have some students who have told me, I've been a teacher, I know how to study. But ask a question they can answer. Doesn't make any sense. I mark this and I ask you to write this big, like on a page in your book, and to mark it. Now I ask you about OMF. You don't even know where it is. Guys, you gotta take this thing serious. I've been teaching this for a long time. So if I tell you this is important, pay attention. But if you don't want to, okay, you're on your own. You are on your own. So better mark this page in your book. You have to go back and read this carefully. You need to know what this Oracle Managed File is all about if you don't know. Read this, make notes, write it on your whiteboard, write it on your flashcards. But if you don't, hey, you're all grown ups, right? But don't come to waste other people's time. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, maybe you guys might be one of those that classes just want us to just move the class, no hands on, nothing. I will just go on. Whew. God have mercy. Okay. I don't even know Francis, I don't even know where to begin. If we had finished that chapter and I ask one question that nobody can answer, that is horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Okay. You know what? Everybody do this. If you don't want to do it, fine. Let's move on to class for the day. I cannot keep going back and people are not studying. Make no sense. I'll just move on. And we need to do some selection of this class, frankly speaking. I'll give you guys some quizzes, and if some people do really bad, I'll just tell you, might as well just stay where you are and don't come and disturb others who want to study. Make no sense. Let me come in and we start what we're supposed to do today. And everybody take upon yourself to create those table spaces. If you can't, you better ask somebody else. Or you go read the book and find out how. Because even if I do it right, and I'll ask you, those of you who have, maybe you have your own way of studying, which is not working. Even if I do it, you still will not learn anything from it. So, but I think if you spend time and look for the answer, you're going to learn something better. So one of the things I want to teach today would be something we call Oracle languages. Before we go back to chapter 16, and hopefully you guys read that chapter. I did ask you to read that chapter in the last class. So my hope and prayer is that you did read it. But if you did not read it also, what can I say? If you didn't read that chapter, there is not much I can do, guys. Take a horse to the stream, you can force it to drink. But we will move on with those who really want to study. Just give me a second there. Let me do something here. Let's search for what I need to teach today. Come on. Just a second, let my thing here buffer all it needs to. Wait a minute. Why is it taking that long? Just a second, guys. Shouldn't take that long. Let me switch to another iPad. Looks like that one would not cooperate today. This guy is out of power too. Did he do something? No, not yet. Oh. Okay. Maybe I need to turn this thing off and turn it back on, it looks like. Oh, maybe copy my notes to... Just a second, guys. That one seems to be okay. this guy. Okay, just behave now. So let me go to your class. May. And we're doing this thing right here. Just a second. Let me check here and see. Yes. Cool. Everybody, you're going to get your pen. Red, blue, green, whatever colors you want. And we're going to write down a few things. Write down a few things. So for today, we are talking about the Oracle languages. Oops, just 1 second. My screen is frozen. Just 1 second. I may have to switch to, guess what? Just a second. Let me close that thing and bring it back up. All right. Let's see here. Is that working all right now? Okay, that works much better. So guys, what are the different languages in Oracle? Hey, Stanley, yeah, I can put everything off and start to record just now.
I'm recording.
Yeah. Maybe you want to begin now.
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay. So guys, languages. Just as we have different languages, databases, not just Oracle, as a matter of fact, all databases have these 4 common languages: DDL, DML, DCL, and TCL. So those are like 4 common languages spoken by all databases, as a matter of fact. But they're very simple, as you can see there, guys. These are basic commands that we can pass to the database to tell the database what to do. Okay? And we pass all of that through this thing here called SQL Plus. SQL. In short, it's called SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language. And Oracle kind of takes that and changes it a little bit, and we call it SQL Plus. So SQL, everyone, maybe you want to write just what it means, right? That simply means Structured Query Language. Structured and Query Language. That's the meaning of SQL. It's a database language. Okay? SQL, database language. And the first of the dialects, if you remember, we have something we call dialects everywhere, right? So we could say this is, SQL is the general database language, but it's made up of other dialects. And of those dialects that it's made up of, the first of them is this one here. Just 1 second. Let me shift my other things away. So the first of them is DDL. Okay? And if you ask what is SQL is Structured Query Language, which is basically a language, guys, maybe let me write this down here.
So we can't see a screen.
Oops, sorry. Where did you go? Where are you? Where are you? Okay, back up here. Thank you. So, SQL. So we say SQL is a language used in communicating with relational databases. Relational databases. And remember, relational databases are called RDBMS. RDBMS, relational databases. That's their full name. But we also say it is a language with many dialects. Yeah, it is a language with many dialects. Then we can say, e.g., example given, we're going to have DDL, DML, then DCL, and TCL. Okay. So we're going to look at all of this right now, speedily. Okay. So let's look at DDL. DDL stands for Data Definition Language. That's full meaning of DDL. Guys, what do we use DDL for? These are statements used to define the database structure or schema. So we use it to define the database structure or schema. And the note says they are called data definition since they are used in defining the data. That is, the structure of the data is known through these DDLs. Very interesting. Guys, like when you create tables, create indexes, you use DDL statements. And some examples of DDL are, we'll list them here. The first one is create. What do we use create for? Guys, that's the one that we use to create database objects. To create objects in a database. And the big word here for any person studying this thing new is, what is an object? A table is an object, an index is an object. So here, so for objects, example of objects that everybody should know would be a table, then an index, then a view. Those are database objects. So using the create command of DDL, we can create those objects. And then We can change those objects also as time goes on using the alter statement. And we can drop. Whatever you create, you can drop. You can truncate. As a matter of fact, truncate only deals with tables. That's something to know. So whenever you're truncating, you truncate nothing but a table. And when you truncate a table, what happens is this, guys, which is always an Oracle exam question. When you truncate a table, you delete or remove all records from the table, including all spaces allocated for the records in that table. Truncate. And everybody, if you're writing down anything, put me a star near truncate. So if I ask you in next week, you cannot even find out where it is, then you know you didn't do what I wanted you to do today. So guys, I will put a star near truncate. And then, I know you don't have this note. I'll give you this note as soon as I finish. Truncate. When you truncate a table, right, what happens is this. Remember I talked about a high water mark. When you truncate a table, you drop the high water mark to 0. All the data is gone. All the blocks that had data are cleaned. Everything is like fresh. That's what truncate does. But when you delete the data, the high water mark stays. Space is not reclaimed. So what we normally say is, or you see it written in some ways like, they'll tell you, and I want you to write this down in your notebook. Truncate. What does truncate do? Truncate reclaims space. What kind of space? Space that was occupied by the rows removed by truncate command. Delete kind of wants to do what truncate does, but delete will not reclaim space. Guys, everyone write me down that tiny little sentence there somewhere. Cool. Then, oops, another thing I could also write is this. Everybody add this there for me. Just add below it, truncate resets or drops Hope everyone remembers what HWM stands for.
The high water mark.
Yes. Please, everybody try to remember that. High water mark. When you truncate, that high water mark goes back down to 0. Let's see some more commands of DDL. So guys, number 4 is truncate. Then the next one is comment. So you can add a comment to the data dictionary of an object. Then rename. Whatever you create, you can rename it. Then DBCC, database console command, statements checked, the physical logical consistency. That one, I won't care about the last one. Maybe don't even highlight it. Just leave it like that. You hardly see anything Actually, you see nothing on that DBCC. But all the other ones at the top, you're going to see and hear about them. Then there's DML. So guys, so we're talking DDL, DML, and we'll see that DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. And in here, it says, these statements are used for managing data within schema objects. So what's the big thing here? For managing data within schema objects. And remember again, what's a schema object? Who remembers what I wrote up there about the schema object or objects? Table. A typical schema object we saw up there is a table.
Index, view.
Index is a view. It's a procedure. It's a trigger. We're going to have a list of those later on. Hey, guys. DML. DML has this. Select. Retrieve data from the database. That's how you pull data out. They say you use DML, but we'll go further down the line. They say it's not DML. Select there is called a query. And we'll end it like that. But for now, just remember, there's select, then there's insert. And we know insert is to insert data into a table. Delete all records. So this delete here, guys, we're going to start here. This one deletes all records from a table. But the space for the records remains. You see there. Then there is update. Guys, update existing rows or data. Then there is merge. What does merge do? Merge, insert operations, insert or update. So when you're merging data, guys, it's like you take data from one table, you're joining with another table, right? When you do that, it's like you're doing an insert for rows that don't exist. But if the rows exist, then you may be doing an update, which you're changing some information in the row. So we can merge two tables together. Call SQL Java program. We don't care about that. Explain plan, maybe I highlight, maybe that one. What's an explain plan? Explain access path. So we use an explain plan, right? Or Oracle take an explain plan and decide how it's going to access some data from your database. That's all that it is. Then there is lock table, control concurrency. That is not a big deal. It's still one of DML, but we, as DBS, will never be locking any tables, or nor would they ask us. But if somebody locks them, they may want to see who. So guys, if you watch here, these are all DML commands. And of these DML commands, the way I remember them personally is from here to here. It is that SIDUM. 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 You can remember all of them. Those are the important ones. Select, insert, delete, update, merge. Good. Then there is DCL, which stands for Data Control Language.
Prof, I have a quick question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
when
sir.
will you use delete instead of truncate?
Oh, you use delete more. Truncate, delete removes all the data in the table, but delete will be selective. You could delete just some data, but truncate, you cannot be selective. Truncate removes every single row in the table. It's like cleanup of the entire table.
So it's like formatting the table.
Yes, it reformats the table, as a matter of fact. Data
Okay,
control language. What do we use this guy for? This one used to control the data, guys. That is, a user can access any data based on the privileges. So this one has a lot to do with privileges that you give somebody. This is done, Missy. This is done through data control language. In other words, guys, we use DCL to give permissions for people to access the database. That's what DCL is, data control language. Control how people will access your data. And the very simple examples, these ones are few. Grant, revoke, deny, that's it. So if I grant you privileges, that means I give you access. If I revoke, it's withdraw access. If I deny, is to disallow specified users from performing specific tasks. Yep, I can deny you the privilege of creating a view or something, or creating tables. And you cannot do that. Then, so that was our number 3, isn't it? Yep. So guys, so number 1 up there, number 2, and number 3, and number 4, which is TCL, transaction control. Let's see what TCL does. TCL, guys, stands for transaction control language, or transaction control statements, as they put it here. And these guys used to manage the changes made by DML statements. It allows statements to be grouped together into logical transactions. So guys, TCL, transaction, if you just think of the name itself, transaction control language, it controls how transactions or data get into our database. And for this one, its number 1 command that we had seen before is commit. What does commit do? We saw that commit, guys. Commit is actually saving, save changes. Then there is set point or save point. Save point, even though we DBS will hardly use that one, identify a point in the transaction to which you can later roll back. The save point, guys, just like this. You have a long application, right? That does X, Y, Z, then D, 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 E, F, G. You could say, okay, when you go X, Y, G, stop, save the data before you continue. So that if the job, but it fails somewhere, we already saved some of the data. That's why they use that save point. It's a point in time that you want your database to be consistent at, so that in case there is fault, there's going to be no loss of data. And our next one, roll back. As a matter of fact, everyone put me a star near roll back and commit. What is roll back? Big idea in Oracle. But guys, it says rollback restore database to original since last commit. That's what it is. If you say roll back your database now, right, it will take you back to the point when you did your last commit. Then there's set transaction, I don't care much about. Change transaction options like isolation level. that's it for the 4 dialects. You only have to use them over and over, and then it'll make sense. Now, I have a question here. Which is the fastest command? Which is the fastest database language here? Of all those commands we saw from the top, from the 4 different groups, which is the fastest? And that, I saw that's a question somewhere. That's why I put it here. What is the fastest command type from 3 command types, DDL, DML, TCL? In other words, among these 3 here, which one would do its job fastest? Typically, guys, it will be the DDL. And it says, during the execution of the DDL command, oh, I missed something, right? Did I wipe something DDL? Anyway, the answer is DDL. But it says, during the execution of DDL command, the DDL command would not copy. Oops, it should be a comma right there. Say the DDL command will not copy the actual content to roll back table space. Hence, it is the fastest. Hey guys, when you do DDL, right? Those DDL commands, you don't save. Once you do DDL, boom, the object is created, it's sealed, it's done. So we don't save when we do DDL. So that's why it's the fastest. But all the other commands will require you to save. Now, this is that big question. I'll mark it here. If I give you guys this note. What are the differences between truncate and delete commands? What are the differences? I have a lot of answers here for that. But if you read this, it will give you a little bit of an idea. So, looking at my number 1 here, it says truncate is a DDL command, whereas delete is a DML. Short and simple, guys. Yeah. One is DML, one is DDL. Truncate is much faster than delete. So they add that point I saw up there. And the reason why, when you type delete, all the data is copied into the row back table space. Now guys, catch this. So if you type delete, right, like you're trying to delete data, all the data that you're deleting will be copied into the rollback table space first. Then deletion get performed. So after you do that, that's when deletion starts. So that could be like number 1, no, number 2, number 1 is here. That's why when you type rollback, next I have to change the font of this thing. When you type rollback, after deleting a table, you can get back the data. Yep. Do you know if you do delete, because the data is kept saved in the original log files, or rather in the undo table space, the smart fact, that's where it is kept, you can get back the data. The system get it for you anyway through rollback. We're going to practice this. Okay, delete 1 million row table, then do undo. The data will all come back. But if you truncate it, the data is gone. Undo will not work. Okay, let's see the next thing. Let's just go to number 3. Hey guys, number 3 says you can't roll back in truncate, but in delete you can roll back. Then it continued to say truncate removes the record permanently. After a delete operation, you need to commit. It is that line we're talking about. When you do delete, you must do commit. rollback. One of those two statements. Who remembers what rollback stands for again? Who doesn't know what rollback does? I can explain again. Hello, guys?
Isn't rollback undo? Or it takes it back to the last save point?
Yep. Rollback is undo, guys. Let me see if there's anything else. In the case of truncate, triggers don't get fired. But in DML commands like delete, triggers get fired. So let me just go number 5. You can't use conditions in a truncate. Yep. You cannot use conditions in a truncate. But in delete, you can write conditions. Number 6, truncate. Truncate command will set the high water mark. Okay, for the table, but delete does not. So, after truncate, the operation on the table are much faster. However, the high water mark is reset. So guys, reset in either case. So maybe that's a better answer. But all the same, guys, when you truncate, the high water mark is reset. All space occupied by the rows that were in there, that space is reclaimed. And now we have like a brand new set of blocks in the extent. And let's see number 7. You can't grant permissions to truncate. So I cannot give you permission to truncate. But you can grant to delete on a table. Then number 8, truncate makes unusable indexes usable, while delete doesn't. Number 9, truncate resets the high water mark, and delete doesn't. Cool. So guys, that's it for that tiny little thing. Don't care about every other thing here. I'll send this to
Prof.
you look at. Yes, sir.
Yeah, on number 8, on that point there, I was a little bit confused. Wasn't it is it trying to refer to the spaces or the index itself?
Indexes.
Because when you said, you said truncate will clear everything. So since you give tables and index as examples of objects, so if truncate is clearing everything, wouldn't it take away? So how is it making the unusable indexes usable?
Because if the index was unusable for some reason, it's because the row IDs were not in place. They were not matching the actual row IDs on the table. So when you truncate, all the rows are gone. Because they're all gone, they're also all gone in the index. So the index will no longer show unusable. It will not
okay, I see from there.
Because there's nothing it's comparing data with. Now, so that's it for that. Let me see what time it is. 8:35. So we've done that, and we're done with, guys, with the languages. Now that we're done with the languages, now let's look at SQL. SQL, we'll be looking more at DML. Then in chapter 5 in the textbook, it will be DDL. So let me see here. We're going to do SQL. It's going to be part of your work for this entire week. Guys, how many months do we have for this class?
4.
First phase is 4 months. Guess what? 1 month, 2 weeks. Gone already. 1 month, 2 weeks kind of gone. So time flies. Don't procrastinate, guys. It looks like a lot of work, but you just need to do it for a short while and you're fine. So focus on it, guys. Don't procrastinate. Because by the time you know it, this summer is ending, the first phase of this class is ending, and then we're coming back to do our kind of internship, which at that point is not much of new stuff. So let me do something here. Why is that thing in the wrong place? I want it to be there. So let me get rid of that. And now I want to look at, come on, can it not disappear? Let's look at SQL or SQL. Select statements. What is select? Select is a query. We saw it was part of DML, right? Like where you have the SIDUM, select, insert, delete, update, merge. But in reality, select is for writing queries only, and at the higher level is not even considered part of DML. It will be considered a query language alone, queries, because it does nothing but queries. So I will introduce that today, and we would move on. DML, let me see here. Understanding select statements. A lot of hands-on on this one. So the big thing now is understanding SQL select query statements. Cool. So if you look at this thing here, guys, we have about, let me see how many questions we have put here. About 38. So guys, here I say there's a collection of 38 frequently asked questions on database SQL query statements. Clear answers are provided with tutorial exercises on selecting rows and columns from tables and views, sorting and counting query outputs, grouping outputs and applying group functions, joining tables, using subqueries. And these topics, guys, include these questions here. What is a select query? They ask you that question. After today, you better be able to answer that question with confidence. But how would you answer with confidence if you listen to me now and you never ever read it again? You don't even know where this document is. And that would be really hard. Okay? How to select. The next one is how to select all columns of all rows from a table. The next one, to select some columns from a table. And now to select some rows. Then we're going to see this thing called sorting. How to sort query output. And can the query output be sorted by multiple columns? Here we're going to see that. How to sort output in descending order. And you keep going down. Missing number 8. How to select statements to count number of rows. Number 9. Can select statements be used on views? Yes. Yes. We can do that. How to filter out duplications in the returning rows. What are group functions? Big idea. You need to know what a group function is. How to use group functions in select. Can group functions be mixed with non-group selection fields? How to divide query output into groups. We'll do something called grouping. How to apply filtering criteria at group level. Okay, let me not keep reading that, but we're going to see this. So guys, this is how that exercise is going to go. Everybody's going to have this document, and you're going to work from it. It's a lot of queries, but I don't want you to type any. You're going to copy it, paste it, and study the output. Okay?
Yes,
So,
sir.
here it says sample scripts used in this FAQ assumes that you are connected to the server with the HR user account. Okay? And this is how you're going to do it. This is how you connect. The connection would kind of be very easy. SQL plus HR/HR. Otherwise, you can do SQL plus HR/HR and you put your connect string. And you do that, it gets you this error here. Who knows what that error means? Anyone? Error 28,000.
Does that mean the database is not open?
The account is locked. You know, it's not database. It says the account is locked. But I've said the database is locked. Who knows what I mean by account here? Who does not know what I mean by account?
I don't know.
Would the account be, would that be the schema for that user?
The user account password.
Hmm?
The password is locked. The account is locked and the password.
Guys, very simple.
He has entered
Account is a user. You know what the user account is locked. How this person connects in is locked. Locked means they cannot come out. They cannot do anything. Like the password, the account. Cool. Then guys, when you get it, like here, I don't know, I have exit up there. Yeah. If you have that error, I am saying that the solution is that. Exit. After you exit, then you do SQL plus, or if you care, you could do that whole thing and you add the connect string behind it. Then it will say connected. Once it connects, this is how you unlock an account, guys. Account unlock. So alter user, HR, account unlock. That's it. Then, if the password was expired, then you must add identified by. So like this, guys, this one here is
the password.
That's for the password. Whereas this other one here is for the user. User or account. Alter user unlock. Just 1 second. I could have done this more like this. Pull this out here. Yeah, HR. So the user here is HR and the account. They cannot go in. Then the other one is if they are forgotten their password, but they can't remember it, we can change the password by doing identified by. So that's a password change statement. Cool. So then the note below says if the HR schema is not available, you can create the sample schemas manually following these steps. So guys, remember, here is just a question. You don't have to do this if you have the HR schema. If you don't have it, if you follow the scripts here, if you notice the script that I give here, you type cd into some directory. Then when you get in, do SQL plus, then you execute. Yep, up to date. Of course, knowing that that's the script at the end, guys. Oops. Yep, that's the script. Guys, hope everybody gets used to, familiar with that. When you see a line like this, you know that this is a script, and everything back here is a path. Okay, so if you run that script, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. You enter that, and you're going to have that user. And I should delete this out now. So now, guys, I say done. Now connected as HR, and exercises begin here. So to log in, simply type that SQL plus HR, that should log you in. Then, you can type show user. So you do show user, or tell you who is connected or who you're connected as. That's the whole idea. But I won't go reading this whole thing. So what I want you guys to see, by the way, let me just read this. What are the tables owned by the HR schema? We need to be able to find that from, say, something like DBA underscore, what was that? DBA underscore tables. It's going to give us that, they will filter. Then the second point, can we find this out by querying the data dictionary table or view? Okay, user underscore tables. First, find out the names of the columns of user tables, blah, 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 blah. Okay, don't worry about that. So, guys, does everybody in class remember us doing that thing? I mean, this. We did that to describe tables.
Yeah.
Anybody remembers what that DES stands for?
Describe.
Yep, describe.
Yes, sir. That is short for describe. Describe. Show me the structure of that. In this case, structure of that view. And the structure usually comes something like this. Okay, let's move on. So now, guys, select table name, num rows from underscore tables. So that will give us every object in that database. So if you're looking at this particular one here, you see departments, there are 27 departments, 25 countries, 10 job history, 107 employees. In jobs 19, location, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Hey, the real thing starts here, guys. Everybody's going to follow this carefully for me. Read. I have the explanations of every single select statement there. It's mostly queries. So if you want to look at my screen here, let me log into this thing. So if we shall be following, let me see if I could bring that document online somewhere. Just a second, let me see if I could catch it. Where are you, document? Just a second. Where are you? Okay, let me peel off. I just want to bring that thing over so you guys can see where I am working from. No, that's not the one. That's data dictionary. Just 1 second. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. This is the document you're all going to have. So when you have this, like me here, I put my mobile X on one side. Then, what is a query? Okay, that one has no definition. Then, exercises begin here. Let's scroll down. So what is a select query? Guys could read this. A select query allows you to retrieve data from one or more tables. Then, how to select all columns of all rows from a table. So guys, if you log into this thing, I want you to watch this that you may actually do on your own. I want to see the user. We are using a user here called HR. And maybe the best place you should begin is to look at HR through the eyes of SQL developer. Let me see if I still have SQL developer here, guys. SQL. SQL developer. I don't have SQL developer. That's weird. Just a second. Let me see if I could find that thing and bring it up. Everybody in class, everybody bring up their SQL developer while I look for mine. Everybody start SQL developer. Let's start from there. You look at this thing visually, and then it might be easier for you to comprehend. Let me check. Software. SQL developer. I thought I downloaded it. Okay, this is it here, right? It's not there. Let me extract that. That's break time. Just 1 second, guys. Let this thing come up. So if you're locked into SQL Developer, I want you to scroll down to the bottom. You're going to see something that says Other Users. When you go to Other Users, you're going to see HR Schema. Which is the schema we shall be using? 854. Okay, I found mine. Good, my thing is coming on. Once it comes on, I jump in there, connect to Class T database. Then I go to look at my schemas. Everybody start this up. If yours is running, tell me done.
Done.
Okay, good. Like mine is done. So I don't have a database. Good. So here, guys, I'll click right here. Box opens up. And I'm going to work in here as maybe sys. I'll put sys in. Let me put sys in class T on L2-60. Just so I can remember what machine. And the username, I'll make sys and sysdba there. Password. I remember it. Then localhost 192.168.2.60. Now I'll fire up test and see. And it tells me fail. Listener. So my listener ain't no go. Oh, I did not put the thing here, class T. So do test again. A username password wrong. So let me fix that password there.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Invalid username password. What? You're kidding me?
I'm just sharpen up.
So
Professor, are we supposed to be writing this down too, or do we use our sys from last time?
I just
Do we copy what you're doing right now, or do we use our sys class from last time?
yeah, if you have sys from last time, it's working fine. No, you don't have to do this. I'm doing it because I did not have it. Just a second, guys. Sudo okay. Then I need to alter user. Alter user sys identified by sys. Now let me test my thing here, see if it works. Test.
But it was kind of like
What?
chaperones growing up.
Please mute yourself.
Yeah, so.
Prof, you didn't
Well,
put
what you like to do
password
for
correctly.
some,
You use SI,
date
an
ideas.
icon or
Yeah.
follow.
Hey, somebody's talking. Who's that? Please. So, yeah, let me see here. What I did was sys password is same thing. And my machine IP address is that 1521. That's the database. And I do test. And it says invalid username password logon denied.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. You typed in S and I think colon when you were doing it. Identify bad.
Oh, thank you. So my password is S. Thank you for catching that. So SYS. I was trying to listen to what somebody was saying there. Cool. So I think if I do that now and I test, should be fine. Come on. Oh, I need to change that. That should be sys. Good. So now do save, connect. So now, guys, 9 o'clock. I'm supposed to stop this and we'll go to do our class for the day. So right here, I'll go to, guys, click the database open. Unfortunately, I cannot make this window bigger, okay? Then I go below, it says other users. If I click on that and I scroll down, I'm going to find my HR. Click on the plus button, tables. I see HR has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tables. This is the query we are practicing our stuff on. And as a matter of fact, everything we're doing there, you can do it in here, okay? Everything we'll be doing, just 1 second. In this, let me go to, where is that document? That document right there. You can shift it right there. No, let me shift it this way. Oops, please. I need some space. So this document right here, which you are all going to get right now, as a matter of fact, let me just show this and I send you guys the document, everybody gets it and log in before I leave it alone. So, but the whole thing is you log into SQL Plus, you could come right here and you see that user HR. If I've changed the password of this user, I can log in straight as this user. Let me see if I could create a login as that user. I want everybody to watch this carefully. So I go to the plus sign. As a matter of fact, anyway, go to the plus sign. So I just put HR in L2-60. Just so I remember what machine. Okay? As a matter of fact, you say LR in class T on that data, on that machine. And the username is HR. Password is HR. And the machine name 192.168.2.60 thing. And the port is correct, but the seed is class T. And I test it. Success. So now I do save. And now I can do connect. Oops, I did not save the password. That's bad. HR. Okay. Oops. Enter the password wrong. Just 1 second, guys. Let me go fix that. For me to fix it, guys, I just come there, right click on it, and I go to properties. And enter HR, and I click here save button. Now, let me do test. Invalid username, password, lock undenied. So, let me go back here. Now it should be alter user HR, which I have in the document, guys. Watch here in this document. You start by doing, let me see, where did we put that here? No, a little bit further up. Yep, up here. Alter user HR, account unlock, identified by HR. Let me just copy that, go paste it. Just so test it, make sure it works, right? Paste that, hit enter. So that's fine. So now I can go back to SQL Developer and I know everything is okay. Do test and what? Invalid username, password. Somebody help me here. What am I doing wrong? Default. HR. Keep that one HR. Class T. That, me do test again. Invalid username, password. So, let me try that. This is how I'll test it, guys. I'll test it like this. I do SQL Plus. HR/HR. Oh, everything should be lowercase, sorry. SQL Plus. HR/HR. And I hit enter. See, it works, right? So let's try it another way. I repeat the same command, but I do @class T. It works. How come it works there and it wouldn't work here? Let me check my net extender. Where is it? Where are you, net extender? Or it might just be that net extender died. Still running. So come back here. Another one. Let me see. Lock on denied. Another thing could be HR may not have enough privileges to lock on to this whole thing. So let me just do HR. Then that IP at the 192.168.2.60 class T. Let me do test again. Success. I don't have to type something up there. So I do save, connect. So now, guys, as that user, I logged in, I can see just my stuff. Okay? Just my stuff. So now I can run all the queries I've given you guys here in there. So scroll down, like this one query here, I can do that describe. And I fire up this green arrow. Should show me the structure of the table below. And that's it. Then I can go down to do my first query. Select table name from num rows. Num rows stands for number of rows. Oh, copied something else. Shouldn't copy. Run that. Gives me the results out there. Same thing, I could have done it here, guys. Could have done it in here. Give me the same results. Then you start to study every one of them. So looking at it, right, this thing is simply saying there are 107 employees. And number of jobs are 19. Locations, regions, all of that information is in there for us to digest. So I would give you guys, let's take a 5-minute break, within which I want everybody to, let me send you guys this document right now, as a matter of fact. Let me send this document.
Prof, can I ask you a question quickly?
Yeah.
So you added a connection for the user and SQL developer?
Yes, of the user HR.
Okay, thank you.
So guys, let me give you guys, not data dictionary. I give you guys all, they are right in the burn down chat, but let me put them in the group. Put that, drop that inside our WhatsApp class group. Where is that class? May. I want everybody to jump on this right now for me. Everybody. Everybody's gonna click on the second link, is a link in question. That second link should bring you like here. I want everybody to look at this, and then you're going to go to your database as the user sys. I go unlock that account. Look, I know it's locked. HR is locked right now. Whoever does it first, let's give ourselves on this 15 minutes. Whoever does it first, you take the other part of the time for your break. Let me take my break too. Everyone, please open that document, log in, and do this piece for me. If you have trouble, ask for help. I would be right back. We go get something to either drink or something. We give me some tea.
You're rubbing on the bed.
Rima, you're still rubbing? No, I'm not rubbing. I'm brushing my teeth. Rima, are you still naked?
Not rub.
What are you doing?
You're watching.
Mommy, that's not what I'm watching.
George, can you please mute your speaker?
You were doing what? No?
I said, come here. Get to come to this room naked and I told you to go to this other way of it. Oh, why is it? I'm going there. What are we? What is wearing? Oh, see where you came here and super naked and top of it. What were you doing? I was debating for you. What? What were you doing? Next time you will not be so lucky. I will warn you harder than this. Hey. I will say usually. Keep
All right, guys, I am back. Did everybody change the unlock that user, HR? Who did not? Anybody has trouble doing it? Hello? Hello.
Yes, we did. I did.
Who did not succeed?
I had a little bit of confusion when I was like copying and pasting some stuff.
Did you unlock the user? Did you try
When I
it?
connected as HRE, connected directly, so I didn't have the error. Don't know if
Okay, if you don't have the error there, you're fine. They don't need it. But this, if you connect and they say the account is stuck,
George, please, can you mute yourself?
then that's when you can do that. But if yours didn't give that error, then you're fine. So now, class, this is what I want.
I hope peace.
Let me see. Somebody keeps really talking. Who is that? Let's search and see who that. Guys, everybody else, mute if you're not talking. When it's time for interactive class, then you can talk. Who's George? I think that's the person I should take out. It's his thing that's making noise all through. If he unmutes again and makes noise, please somebody take him out. I don't think he's not following the class in the first place. So, guys, once everybody has that HR schema, but if you don't, you could create the schema. Then the exercise begins here. This is what I want you to do, everyone. You can read and write. So you can just start here from doing the select statements, like number 2, how to select all columns of all rows. You read, everybody's going to read this stuff. If you don't understand something, they can come back later and explain. But if you don't come back with anything, I would assume that you understood everything and you did everything. Okay? The star, what does star mean? Star actually tells us all columns. So select star from departments. And now everybody watch me. You can run this, all of you guys, right from SQL Developer. I think that's why I did ask you guys to connect. You could be right here and let me see, did I lost my connection? Looks like. And you run that right there, and you see it. Or you do this in SQL Plus right here. You log in as that user, and you run the same statement, but the output is different. Output looks different because the output here wrapped around if you didn't stretch your screen correctly. So if you look at SQL Plus and SQL Developer, the output looks a little bit different. It's the same data. Then you go to number 2, how to select some columns from a table. So guys, I put select here for your sake. So you can do select, for example. Rather, excuse me, I put describe, not select. So if you describe that table, you see all the columns. These are the columns on that table. Oh, and by the way, for those who are using SQL Developer, right? You have a pencil here that you can delete everything. And there's a save icon there. There's even a print, you can print. And this other one needs to run some scripts. This one you can pin. So, but if I run that describe, it gives me this. So these are the columns in that table called department. Or I could do that here also, right? If I do it here, you can see my columns are these ones. Now I can write a select statement. If you watch on the other side, select location ID. That's this column. Department name, that's that one. From departments. It will give you something like we have there. Okay? Or I can just copy this and paste it. Copy it, paste it here. So I have 27 of those. Or I can do that in SQL Developer, like that. And if I add that up, see my 27 rows. Then I go to the next one. You do this with understanding, guys. You got to read. Don't just run the statement, then you complain later on. So you got to read what it's saying, how to select some rows from a table. And they explain here, they actually explain the where clause. You don't understand, even copy SQL where clause, Google it and see what they say. So select star from departments. Where? Department name like C. So only department names that begin with a C. So I can copy that statement from in here, paste it, highlight it, and execute. It gives me 4. Same thing, I can go back to here and I run it. It gives me 4 columns. And 4 rows, or the output is 4 rows. And that is what I want you guys to do there's 30 something, 38, is it 38? Yes, about 38 queries. Because in the database, guys, queries are done maybe 50 times more than inserts. So a query in the database is the biggest thing. So as we study, we're going to find out how to detect a slow running query and how to try to make it faster. So I would end that right there. And you all have this because there's no point for me to sit here and read what you can read and then you run it. But if you encounter one that you think it needs explanation in class, just mark the question, come to class tomorrow and say, hey, let's look at question number 6 and see. With that said, I think that's it for that chapter, for this section. So we did database languages, DDL, DML, TCL, and DCL, right? There are 4 of them. Then we now came to talking about, what else did we do after that? Wait a minute. Hey guys, after DDL, TCL, and DML, what did we do?
We're doing DML.
Oh, we came to this. Okay, we came to
this one, the SQL.
Yes. And this SQL Select is part of DML, data manipulation, because you can use these guys to kind of query data and play with data from your database.
Yes.
So, everybody please, it's one step at a time. Don't hurry. Pick each query, read it, understand the English, and see the explanation, run the query itself. Sometimes you may have to copy the query out to Notepad, fix it before you come back in, but it's rare. Then look at this one, how to sort. Remember talking about the PGA and the sort area and the PGA. If you need to sort, this is how you sort, guys. Order by. Order by is what makes sorting happen. So, in other words, you select, you're going to get all of these names, but you take the names and you order them, arrange them by last name, and then their salary. That's what that statement says. So if I run this thing here, let me see if it's going to give me an error. Okay. I'll run it in here. Oops. Copy. Control A. What am I pasting? Just 1 second. Copy. Control A, delete. And where's my paste? Okay, right here. So if I run that statement, it gives me the same data, but what it did is this, guys. Because I said order by department ID, right? So it arranged them by department ID going from 100 to 900 to whatever going down. So I could do order by department ID. Oh, because I did descending. Watch that. So we could do this. We could run that same statement, but we'll take away descending. Take away descending means you're doing ascending. So guys, watch this when I run that query. This 100 here will not be there anymore. Yep. You see now it starts from 10 and going all the way up to whatever, to hundreds. So that is what? Descending and order by. So depending on the business needs, you're going to arrange that statement to fit what your boss wants. Cool. Any question about this little homework on what to do?
Can you explain it one more time?
Okay, what part is a little bit confusing?
So, like, I'm just trying to understand, like, what are we supposed to do? Because I'm looking at it, I'm just trying to understand what Pacific.
Did you get this document?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, yes.
This document is simple. It's all about select and queries. And so in this document, you have this, we use select and queries, rather we use select or queries to answer all these questions. Okay, that's what we do. So we go in and we're using one particular schema. This exercise is based on the HR schema that is in our database already. It's part of our database. So we're going to log in as that user to be able to write our queries. We use SQL Plus, or we can use SQL Developer, which is this tool. You have this tool, right, everyone? Do you have this thing open?
Yes.
Yeah, I have my SQL developer open.
Did you create a new connection for HR?
Yes.
So you use that, so that's the connection you're going to use. Once you log in as that user, they can run a query on the tables that HR owns. And I even give you here inside the SQL developer, right? Under HR, you can click tables and you see the tables. So HR owns 7 tables. And they all have data. So we'll be using those tables for this exercise. So after you log in, you're going to skip all of this because you log in. If you did not log in, then you may do some stuff there. And the exercise begins here. Look here. You see why I say exercise begins here?
Uh-huh.
So you're going to start from here, going down. Just read instructions. That's just a query. Now you should know, whenever I see the word select, you know that's a DML. Means you're selecting this thing from some table. So you copy that, paste it, and if you run it, you should have that output. And number 2, this is the statement here. But please don't just copy the statement and run it. Read the text before the query so that you know exactly what the query is supposed to do. That's how you learn query. You learn SQL by looking at real examples and understanding them. Run them, look at the output and see if it makes sense. If you don't get it, put a question sign, mark that number, and then we can talk about it later. But if you have nothing later on, then I'll assume that all went well. All right. And by the way, guys, I did SQL now because we're going to use SQL throughout your life as a DBA. You were using select. I've done this quite a couple of times. This is the first time I'm trying to do it with you guys. Do you guys understand this? Let me just go back and look at, explain something before we start. Everybody watch here. Do you guys now, who does not understand why we describe a table or a view? When you do that describe, what are we looking for?
Isn't like when you describe it, we kind of look information about like the data structure and information, like you want to find out the types in the table.
Yeah, kind of. Any other person?
In a very high level, Prof, could you just say you're looking for metadata about the table?
Yeah, what kind of metadata?
So, like information about data in the table.
In the data.
Not really. Not another person? Yeah, you got some points there, but not completely. Napoleon, why do we describe a table? Napoleon, are you online?
Yes, Prof.
Why do we describe a table? say something. I've been doing this thing like for the past 6 weeks. And there's an example right in front of you. You should be able to say something about it.
I think we described the table to have an idea of the number of rows and columns.
Yeah, that's partial. Well, means almost nobody really fully understood why we do that. By the way, maybe somebody should write this down. If you ever have to write a query, I put it here. First, find out the names of the columns of user tables using describe. Okay, don't worry about that. But you describe for this reason. You want to know the names of the columns of the table. Except, who doesn't understand what a column is? So explain that for the last time ever in this class. Who needs an explanation of what a column is? Nobody. Guys, you described so you can see the structure of your table. For example, the tables we are using in this class, right? And these tables here, in this project, in this practice of SQL, these are the tables. For you to query somebody asks you, give me the names of all countries in this database. How are you going to know if you don't see the names of the countries? Or rather, you don't see the column that contains names of countries. So this is what you do. You now do describe countries. When you do this, can somebody tell me how many columns do we have in the table called countries?
3.
Good. Can somebody else tell me how many data types we have for the table country?
3.
3.
How many columns are mandatory in the table country? How many columns are mandatory? Or which columns are mandatory?
2.
2.
1.
The person who says 1, which one?
The country ID.
Okay. And why do you think so?
Because it cannot be null.
Thank you. Excellent. Country ID cannot be null. You cannot enter a country without the ID. That's what that means. So that column is a mandatory column. That column would end up being what we call the primary key or the unique key, primary key or unique key, or it will end up being an indexed column, that column. And these are the data types. So you describe a table so that you can see the names of the columns, which of the columns are mandatory, and the data types of each column. So looking at this now, I can now boldly write my select statement. Select country name or country ID, comma, if I was interested in the ID, and country name. Now I do from countries. It gives me 25 countries. But guys, if I did not describe, How would I know that country name is written like this? I could have maybe thought one word or just put country or what. That's why you do describe. Does any person, again, doubt what describe does? Or why? Guys, never ever be a fool and you start writing a query without knowing the names of the columns. If they ask you to get something from a database, the first thing you want is what table? What are the columns in the table? All they have to do is give you the table name. Then you find out the names of the columns. And you start to figure out the rest. Cool. So like if you look up here in the SQL Developer, where I am, look at the employees table. In SQL Developer, right? I want everybody to watch something now. Let me show you guys this again. Look at, let's start with the employees table. I'm right on the employees table. It shows us the structure of the table. Watch that. Column name. Data type. That's that one that says type. No label. That is the mandatory column. See no label? For example, if you watch this one here, say yes. That means that can be left unknown or empty. If you look at the employee ID, nullable, they say no. That means not null. Means you must give some value. And then data default comments. See, they put a comment on every column. Oops. Cool. But let me get back out of where was I? Okay, it was over here. So now, guys, I want to get to watch some other stuff here. If I click on data, inside SQL Developer, see all the data. If I go to the next one, model, I would see the data model of this table. How this table is related to other tables. Look at that. The table is employee. Where are you employee? This table. So that table is related to the job history, is related to the to jobs, it is related to department, and it is related to itself. We're going to study all of those things. Chapter 6 or chapter 5 and 6 in your textbook. Cool. Next one, constraints. This table has, that table has, what is that? 10 constraints. That's a lot of constraints. Let's see the next one, grants. Means who has privilege to see stuff on there. Select OE. There's a grantee called OE. Grantable, grantor is HR. That means HR has given OE privilege to select from employees table, reference employee table. Go to the next one, statistics. This will give us statistics for the table. This is what Oracle uses to process SQL statements. If you look for the statistics, there's a num rows, 107, blocks, 5. So this table occupies 5 blocks. Average row length, 69. So the average row length of this table is 69 characters. Sample size, 107. That is the sample size of the data. Last analyzed, 24 August 13. That's the last time that database was, or that table was analyzed. Then if you go to the next one, remember I talked about flashback logs, guys. Click here. You can see flashbacks here. That's part of flashback logs. Then you go to the next one, details. Gives us some more, plenty of detail here that means nothing to me. Partition, this table has no partition. Index, the table has 6 indexes. And I like to see the SQL, the statement that was used to create the table. Fire that up, it gives you the SQL statement. This is how the table was created. Whoa, that's a complex table, guys. Watch that. create table, the syntax goes all the way to here. And then these are comments added to the columns. And it keeps going down. Create index, create index, create index. Create or replace trigger. It's a trigger on the table even. That's a busy table. Cool. So guys, that's the power of SQL Developer. It can show you things graphically and you easily understand them than if you're looking at them just through SQL Plus or through SQL. So guys, just look at this, just get used to it, but it doesn't mean that at work you'll be dealing and playing with this all the time. It's faster to do things in SQL Plus than to do them here in reality. But for a new person studying, this one would make things clearer for your understanding. Any question on the assignment and SQL Plus and SQL Developer? Any questions? Anybody? Going once? You have no question, guys?
Prof, can you actually explain the node and no node?
Not the word null. Null means unknown.
Okay.
Unknown or empty does not mean zero. It actually says null is unknown. We don't know the value. Unknown.
Okay.
Not null means it must not be unknown. We must know the value. Or in other words, we must give it a value. A value must be given. When a column is not null, you cannot skip that column. You know, like you go to fill a form online and they tell you you need some form, you don't fill a field, you move forward and say go fill that field. Because that's a not null column. Every form that you're filling, you're actually filling, it's like you're inserting data into a table. Guys, take this serious. Wake up tomorrow, practice, run through these questions before class. And through the weekend, run through them again. Make sure you understand every SQL statement. And later on, they ask you a SQL statement, you say, oh yeah, I saw that somewhere, you could go copy it and fix it and write your own query. That's how you learn SQL. Otherwise, you can go take a SQL class for $2,000 somewhere, just for them to teach you how to do this same thing we're doing now. It's much easier than what we're doing, so every one of us can whip this thing out with no problem. No problem.
Prof,
Yes, sir.
just for clarity's sake, I'm not sure about the privileges. If you're in SQL Plus, once you log into a database as a SIS, you should be able to query all these tables. You don't have to log in as HR, correct?
Absolutely. But then it will give you too much work because you have to do this. Watch. If you see this one here, it says SIS. I'm logged in here as SIS. Let me go back here. Let me get this query. If you see this query, if I run that query, it gives me, gives me that output there. That's the output of that query. If I take that same query and I go to run it as SIS, watch what it will say. If I run that, table of view does not exist. So I have to go do this. I have to go to the table and I put HR dot to define that this table belongs to HR. Then that query now can work. So you just have to do some extra work. Yes. Yeah, SIS can do anything in the database. But if your SIS is touching somebody's table, SIS must mention the user's or the account name before the name of the table. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. And let's go back. Guys, that's what we should, this is the topic of today. Oracle security. Guys, how do we secure our database? It's through, guys, through users. Every user account must have a password and some limitations. And we must give them privileges. Grant and revoke privileges as they need. Never give more than you need. There is something we're going to see later on called principle of least privileges. Principle. Just write it down somewhere. Of least. Write this so when you open that page you can see. Principle of least privileges. Maybe I'll say this. Follow the principle of least privileges. Means this. Never give somebody 1 inch more than they need. Because remember, you give them an inch, they'll tell you they want a yard, they want a foot. Give them a foot, they want a yard. But right from onset, don't give ever more than somebody needs. That's what I've learned. The principle of least privileges. In life, that's the way it is. Be lenient and people will take you for granted. Be too lenient and people will take you for absolute granted. Get some people know what I'm talking about.
Is it like in a relation to, let's say, when you take a hospital, the nurse doesn't need access, see certain information of the patient, like the doctor needs more privilege and than the nurse, and the nurse need more privilege than the caregiver.
Absolutely. But don't give somebody who doesn't need information the privilege to do anything, never ever. Don't grant them more than they need. Give them just what they need. The principle of least privileges. It goes across all databases and probably through life. So guys, we're going to talk about the privileges. Privilege is just a right. Let me tell you guys what the privileges are. We just saw those database languages. DDL, DML, DCL, TCL. As a matter of fact, we saw grant and revoke. What was grant and revoke? Can somebody remember? What language is grant and revoke under? We saw those. Was it TCL?
DCL.
Data control language. DCL. Remember there's DCL, there's TCL, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, this one is DCL. Because we saw TCL. What commands are under TCL? Commit.
Save point.
Roll back. Yeah, a save point.
Set transaction.
But the most important ones that you must remember will be rollback and commit. The other ones, save transaction, save point, those ones are used by developers. So, I thought I looked at this yesterday, didn't I? I didn't save it. Okay, let's just look at this again, guys. But I would really implore you guys, I don't have to sit and read a textbook in class. From some chapters coming ahead, I'll just pull a few things out in a PowerPoint and I show you guys. Then I want you guys to go read that book. So let's do Just 1 second. Let me minimize my other windows here. Da-da-da-da-dun-da-dun. Yes. What time is it? We got 30 more minutes. Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about this user accounts. What is a schema? What is a profile? I thought I went through that the other day. Looked like my document did not save. I actually thought I did. Just a second, guys. We get. And this is chapter 16. Chapter 16. So, guys, when you take the Oracle exam, you're going to hear about that principle of least privileges. You cannot go through that exam without seeing 1 or 2 questions on that topic. Because that's the best defense you have for yourself, is to make sure that nobody gets more than they need. Nobody sees more than they need, you know. Just a second, let me put some things on my screen here together before I have a crash. So, any question? I hope everybody has understood what they need to do for those SQL statements, and they can log in. So you'll be able to run those queries in SQL Plus and in SQL Developer at the same time. You're able to do that. So let's start by looking at this, guys. This database security. Guys, I say it has, oops, 1 second. My screen is up, just a second. Let me go back here. Good. So, this topic. So, database security. Yes. Something we must know. As we go through this, frankly speaking, the things we want to pay attention to, right, would be these user accounts, grant and revoke privileges, roles, profiles, and security and auditing. Then, unified auditing, they throw this in there. It's something new that Oracle introduced in Oracle 12. So we're going to, with Oracle 11, as a matter of fact. So we're going to deal with that at the end. Then, for the several aspects of database security, number 1 is authentication. I don't know what I talked about that. I actually went through this the other day. I must be going crazy today. Just hold on. Let me check, make sure I have the right notes.
No, sir, but I think we have to start from this topic today.
Okay. I just want to make sure. All right. You might be right. Okay. Got that. Let's stick here. So, guys, there's authentication. I know we talked about authentication the other day seriously. That's why I remember this. I talked about it as Stanley was explaining what he understood as authentication. Then, but authentication has typically to do with who can connect. They know their username, they know their password. How does one identify themselves? That's all authentication is all about. It's about. Then there's authorization. Now, for authorization, what are users allowed to do? Yes, you log in. Okay, so what can you see? And how does one restrict their actions? As a DBA, guys, let me tell you, as a DBA, you always log in as sys or system, and you can do all of these things. Finally, there is auditing. So we're going to be talking about auditing. So the big things that we'll be seeing here would be, in other words, authentication, authorization, and auditing. Cool. Let's go down a little bit. So when a user logs on to a database, I'm reading right from here, guys. Following some means of identification, they connect as a user account. So guys, this time you log in. So it's important to catch that word, user account. And what does user account mean? It is what defines your initial access permissions and attributes to the session. Remember, each time you log into a database, you actually start a session. Associated with the user account is the schema. So now, guys, what is a schema?
Isn't like index and like objects and stuff like that?
Yeah, kind of. Yes, has to do with that. So the terms, guys, catch these terms. They're all synonymous. So the terms user account, schema can often be can be used interchangeably in an Oracle environment, but they are not always the same. So who is a user? A user is nothing but a person who connects to a user account by establishing a session against the instance and logging on with the user's account name. So that's what they define a user to be. And then there is a schema. A schema is a set of objects owned by a user account. Yep, catch this here. No, this is what a schema is. It's a set of objects owned by a user account. And what's a user account back at the top? A user account is what defines somebody's access permissions and attributes in the session in which they log on. A user account must be granted privilege. Right here. Privileges before a session or sessions connected to the account can do anything. Many different privileges can be granted for many different objects and actions. And privileges are usually grouped into roles. Oops, that's the other one I had to underline. So guys, what are roles? As a matter of fact, start from, let's dig up privilege in there. Let me see. Yes. Okay, privileges up here. You say user account must be granted privileges. So user account must be granted privileges before a session or sessions connected to the account can do anything. So that privileges, you can do nothing. Many different privileges can be granted for many different objects and actions, and managing privileges individually is not practical. Yes, that line is very important. So guys, you cannot be managing privileges individually. Okay? For any, but except the system is so simple. But the big idea, because we can't do that, so we take privileges and we group them into roles. So what are roles? Roles is what makes roles which make privileges administration or privilege administration much easier. So guys, what do we use roles for? Administer privileges. That's what they're saying there. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's one more thing. Profiles. You can use profiles to manage passwords and to a limited extent cannot control the resources a user is allowed to consume within the instance and database. So guys, big idea here, profiles. Let's all zoom in a little bit. Circle us that word profile. So what are profiles used for? These bad boys are used to manage passwords. So guys, maybe you want to write this down. Used to manage passwords to a limited extent and control the resources a user is allowed to consume within the instance. Whew. This is so deep. I want everybody to put a star here if you have your read textbook. So sometimes when you're not tired, you come back and read this and it will make some sense. So, but let's just go through the big words that we saw here, right? The big words seen here so far would be a user account. Everyone should know what a user account is, right? Then there is the user. What's a user? It's a person. The user is a person. But the user account, guys, is simply, it's not a person typically, but it is what actually defines the initial access permissions and even all the environment variables that you'll be using as you log in. That is the user account. A little bit different from the user. Then a schema is a set of objects. So schema, set of objects owned by a user account. A user account must be granted privileges. And guys, the privileges before a session or sessions connected to the account can be anything. But guys, privileges are just rights, permissions, right? That's easy to understand. And we can take many privileges, we group them into roles. And why do we put privileges into a role? Guys, ease of administration. They make administration of privileges easier because you can have one role and it has 500 privileges. And you grant that one role to somebody, means you've just granted the 500 privileges. Then profiles. What are profiles? Profiles, guys, are created and the main purpose is to use them to manage passwords. And if possible, even manage resources that a user is allowed to consume. Resources are things like memory, CPU, and those kinds of things. So we can actually maintain or decide how they are used through profiles. All right, I think if you could understand that, The entire chapter is about this stuff that we're just talking about here. Okay? What is that auditing? Let me just pick on this one word down here. What is the purpose of auditing? Why do we run it? Guys, we do that to record actions that are permitted but potentially harmful. That's one of the big reasons for auditing your database. Because, guys, just think, if they make you the president and there's no auditing, and you can do anything you want, then the world will go really crazy very soon. So auditing, guys, auditing is to keep things in check. Make sure nobody's doing what they are not supposed to do, or doing what they have privileges to do, but that was not the main purpose of them having that privilege. And that's why when you audit like that, you kind of turn back to the principle of least privileges and you take away privileges from people. Create and manage database user. Guys, we did this the other day, didn't we? And so I was reading by myself. Oh, no, I read by myself, sorry. I was just reading this the other day. So guys, let's come to here where it says, create and manage database users. This we must know very well, yes. As DBAs, we'll be the ones creating those users. So let's go under user account attributes. I won't go reading the whole thing. A user account has a number of attributes defined at account creation time. These attributes will be applied to sessions that connect to the account. Although some can be modified by the session or the DBA, okay, while the session is running. So guys, what are the attributes? The attributes, number one, is a user must have a name. And the name must have some credentials. Must start like with a character. It must not be more than a certain number of characters and all of that. And then number two, the user must have an authentication method. How do they connect in? 3, every user must own a default table space. And then table space quota, quota is just, we have a table space of 100 megabytes. We can decide that you can only use 10 megabytes. So that will be your quota. Let's see the next on the other side. So number 5 is this, guys, a temporary table space. Every user must have a temp table space. And every user must have a profile. And then the account status, we can always check that. All this should be specified when creating the user. So guys, we put all of this when you are creating your user. Although only the username. So guys, catch this one, which is usually the big Oracle trick question. Although only the username and authentication methods are mandatory. The others have defaults. So guys, as you're creating a user, right, you can ignore temporary table space, you can ignore table space quotas, but you must give a username and you must give an authentication method. That's what they're saying there. And what's the big deal about the username? What time is it? Let's talk about this one, then maybe we'll end. Tell you guys, we've done much more today than many other days. Even though I didn't even scratch the surface on the topic I wanted to talk about. So, this username, guys, how do we name users? A username, guys, must be unique in the database and must conform to certain rules. So you cannot create a duplicate username. A username must begin. So these are the points that start here. Must begin with a letter. Must. And then the next thing. Must be no more than 30 characters. So guys, pay attention to that. So let's put number 1. Begin with a letter. Number 2. No more than 30 characters long. And can consist of only letters, digits, and the $sign. An underscore, characters. So that would be my number 3rd point about this. A user cannot be a reserved word. Okay, another one. Who understands what I mean by a user cannot be a reserved word? Anybody?
Basically, you can't automatically have it saved.
Mm-hmm. No. A reserved word would be a word like the word oracle.
Mm-hmm.
Like the word sys or system. Or like the word table. Table is a reserved word inside almost inside every database, because you have database object types called tables. Hey, let's see the next point. Next point says the letters are case sensitive but will be automatically converted to uppercase. So that's our number 5. Then all these rules can be broken, with the exception of length, as a matter of fact. Let's all highlight this line really nicely. All these rules can be broken if the username is specified within double quotes. Hey, guys. So all those many rules that they're giving the guys, who can break all of them if you put the username inside double quotes like this. So you could say something like this. John, of double quotes. That means in the database, it must be stored like this. Okay? Means lowercase, uppercase, we mixed in the actual database. Okay. Let me see what else about name. And I'm looking at this carefully because if you remember, we saw the names of table spaces. It's about the same thing, okay? Very, very similar to that. The next thing, let me see. The first example, the 3rd, 4th, okay, I don't care about that. Let's see the tip down here. It is possible to use non-standard usernames. Yep. It's possible to use non-standard usernames, but this may cause dreadful confusion. Some applications rely on the case conversion. Others always use double quotes. It may be considered good practice always to use uppercase and only the standard characters. Okay? So they're telling us good practice. This means that double quotes can be used or not. Okay, or in the case. So guys, they give us some example here that I used to spend time and look at with students. So guys, see here. Create user, John, identified by password. And it says created. Now, what's the second case here? Create user John. I want to see how to put John now. Identified by, same thing. It says created. You see now, guys, we have John twice. The first John is all lowercase, as you can see up there. It's all lowercase, but it is not in double quotes. So how would it be stored in the database, guys? Lowercase or uppercase?
Lowercase. Lowercase.
No, uppercase.
Oh, really?
So this will be stored in uppercase. By default, Oracle stores everything in uppercase. But if you force it like we did down here with double quotes, so Oracle will store it in lowercase. Then let's see the next statement down. Create user John. Identified by that. It's a table created. I want you guys to see the strange thing that's there. Is because we were told that you cannot use these things to create database objects. So those things are not allowed. Cool. But it takes them. Then, watch here. They will use a reserved word. That's a reserved word, table. Okay? It is a reserved word. It cannot be used regularly, normally, but because it is in double quote, it would fly. Then watch the select statement here. The guy can select from that database, right, to get everything. So select username created from DBA users, where lower username, like John. So select that, you can see all the 3 John that he put in there are there, but he's searching for them in lowercase, and he finds all of them. Cool. So, but that's all about that. Let's talk about what time is it? What about default table space in quotas? Hey guys, every database has a default table space and quotas also. So here it says every user account has a default table space. So guys, every database has a default table space. Every user has a default table space. But if you create a user and you don't give that user a default table space, Oracle will give that user the database's default table space. Okay? So, guys, what is this? You're asked from today, what is a default table space in Oracle? The answer is this. It says, which is the table space where any schema objects, such as tables or indexes, created by a user will reside. So every user will have their default table space. Which means if you have your default table space, create a table, right? You don't tell Oracle where to keep the table. Oracle will keep that table inside your default table space. It is possible for users to own objects in any table space on which they have been given a quota. But unless another table space is specified, when creating the object, it will go into the user's default table space. So like here, guys. And this is the one I was talking about. There is a database-wide default table space. It's just in the database, at the database level. And they say, guys, that this will be applied to all user accounts if a default tablespace is not specified when creating a user. So guys, whenever you're creating a user, you must give a default tablespace. If not, that user would acquire the database-wide default tablespace. The default can be set when creating the database and then changed later. Yes, we know that. So guys, alter database default tablespace, give the name. Cool. If a default tablespace is not specified when the database is created, it will be set to the system tablespace, which is a bad idea. System tablespace belongs just to the data dictionary or to SYS. Caution. I'm going to finish this section, then we'll take off, okay? I have the other class to waiting.
Prof, question.
Uh-huh.
That table space name, what would that be?
What table space name?
When you're trying to alter the alter data default table space, that table space at the end.
Yeah. This will be any table space you've created. It would be any table space that you want. But it will be a permanent table space, not a temporary. Permanent. Let's read this tip here. After creating a database, do not leave the default table space as system. And that is bad practice. Yes, sir. Either change it as soon as you have created another table space, or use a form of the create database command that creates a default table space. Now, guys, what is a quarter? Let's talk about a quarter. We're almost at the end of the day. So quarter is the amount of space in a table space that a user is allowed to occupy. So guys, any person who did not get that thing about quarter, you want to get it right here. Amount of space in the table space that the user is allowed to occupy. The user can create objects and allocate extents to them until the quota is reached. If the user has no quota on the table space, the user cannot create anything. Let me highlight that. Has no quota. Let me see. If a user's quota is reduced to less than, no. That's not what I wanted to highlight here. That if the user has no quota on the table space, the user cannot create any objects at all. Yep. Quotas can be changed at any time. Cool. Let's go down to, I just wanted to make note we all catch that. Let's go down a tiny little bit to the next section. And I would like you guys to read this thing. Now, let's read the next line at the top. Something I'd like to explain. So, guys, we are up here. That if a user's quota, if a user's quota is reduced to less than the size of the objects that the user already owns, or even reduced to 0, the objects will survive and will still be usable. But they will not be permitted to get any bigger. Hey, who got that whole sentence there? So guys, I've given you a quota of 5 meg, right? Then I come back later and I reduce the 5 meg to 0 meg, and you have created tables already. So what will happen to the tables? The tables will still stay there, but they cannot grow in size anymore. That will be the big thing. They can shrink in size, but they cannot grow bigger. Then, guys, there's some queries somewhere I want to look at. Let's go down to, before we end the day, let me see here what part I should. Okay. They're explaining some queries in here. See, they have queries in here that they're talking about up there, but yes, let's just finish this section. Okay. Figure 16-2 shows how to investigate and set quotas. So, guys, how do we set quotas to people? The first query in the figure is against the DBA underscore users. We need to pay attention to that, right? So if you use DBA underscore users, you can find the determine the default and temporary table space for a user. Okay? And that table has one row for every user account in the database. Then there is some other table called just database properties. Let me see. No, nothing good to know about that. But we're going to use that database properties table later on. Let's see the note here that they're trying to warn us after all the confusion. Most users will not need any quotas because they will never create objects. That's true. They will only have permission against objects owned by other schemas. The few object owning schemas will probably have quota. Okay, that's much for us to read. 2 alter commands in the figure. I give John the capability to take up 100 megabyte of space and to have an unlimited amount of space. Let's look in here. We can just explain from here and we go. So guys, watch here. Select default table space. Temporary table space from DBA users. That's the big thing we're looking at. Where username is John. So with that selection, right, we have that and that. And then alter user John quota 10. The key here, guys, of this whole exercise to me is to see how you give somebody quota. Alter user John. You just say quota. 10M on users. Who knows what on users is? Who knows what this users is here? That's a table space. Then you can also do this, guys. Alter user John quota unlimited. For an example. With that one, use all the space in there, who cares? Then the next query, select table space name, bytes, blah, 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 from, there is a data dictionary table called DBA TS quotas, where username equals John. So to select that, well, this is what we get. I think the big idea here is this, guys. The user table space has, I think that's 10 megabytes or something. Then example has, okay, don't worry about that. So let's call it off for today. Done very little of the chapter, but tomorrow I'll make sure we endeavor to finish this chapter. Let me see how far it goes. It's one of the big chapters. But tomorrow, come ready, so we'll finish this chapter and move on to other things. See, I didn't even 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. Okay. All right, guys. Let me let you guys go rest. If you have time, just practice those SQL. Those SQL statements, they are so importantly, God knows. You need to understand how to write queries. Starting from those fundamentals, then you'll be able to write bigger queries. So that's the opportunity you got. All right, guys. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Mr. Cho need a break.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
sir.
night, sir.
Yes.
Good night, sir.
Be on
Good night.
tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night.
Yes. Good night, George.
Good night or good morning. No, good night.
Yes, sir. Florida Bear. Good morning. Good night. Good morning.